Yo, have you heard of LinkedIn Learning? If you haven't, LinkedIn Learning is an American massive open online course provider. It provides video courses taught by industry experts in a variety of subjects. Now, why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because Living Corporate is in partnership with LinkedIn Learning to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion courses. Listen, if you're trying to be a better ally, you want to understand better diversity, equity, inclusion strategies, or you just want to learn how to be a better leader, you got to check out the courses on LinkedIn Learning. So check it out. You can do it one of two ways. You can click the link in the show notes, or you go to LinkedIn Learning and you search Living Corporate. Again, link in the show notes, or go to LinkedIn Learning and search Living Corporate. I'll see you over there.
Welcome back to the Access Point. You guys may see that I am here by myself. You don't see BG, but I'm here with some special guests. But before we get into introductions, I just want to welcome everybody and tell you a little bit about Living Corporate, which is the organization that hosts the Access Point. So the Access Point is a digital media network consultancy focused on workplace equity and diversity and inclusion. Living Corporate centers and amplifies Black and Brown voices in the workplace through digital media production and business-to-business consulting. The network offers a variety of programming, and tonight we're excited that you join us for the latest installment of the Access Point. And so for those of you who have never been here, this is your first episode with us. The Access Point is a weekly webinar that is focused on preparing Black and Brown college students and early career professionals for the workforce by having the real nuanced talks that they don't know that they need. And this week I am so excited because we've got some special guests with us. We've got Sherman Joseph and Preston Williams who are joining us, the brains behind the awesome brand Sherman Preston. And so I think I'll go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves and before we hop into tonight's conversation.
Of course. My name is Preston. I am the creative director of Sherman Preston.
I'm Sherman Joseph, New York native, head of all operations of Sherman Preston. And together, Preston and I come together at the helm to spearhead this brand.
Awesome. And I have to say, because I'm also a New Yorker, I'm from Brooklyn, Brownsville. So this is a very special conversation. Wait a minute. We shaking the head. You're supposed to just roll with it. Roll with it.
I'm rolling with it, but I know you're a Net fan. So
yeah.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah. And that's where the divide in the city happens.
Let's not shade the Nets, guys. I mean, when's the last time the Knicks got close to winning a championship? Let's just go ahead and put that to the side, y'all. But anyway, we'll go ahead and hop into tonight's conversation. I'm really excited because I've shared a little bit about my entrepreneurship journey here on the Access Point. You guys know, if you've watched the show a couple of times, that I am the owner of Rock Career Development, which is a career services firm that is focused on helping Black and Brown basketball players at the student and pro level to translate their existing skills into high-paying, in-demand careers. So I've been on this entrepreneurship journey for a while, and I wanted to talk tonight with some folks who have actually carved out their path as well as entrepreneurs. And so let's go ahead and hop right in, because I feel like when it comes to kind of our target audience, the folks who are millennials and Gen Z, you know, they have a little bit of a nuanced approach to working careers. I mean, our parents were like, get a good job or get a degree, get a good job, work for 40 years, retire with your plaque, and go live your best life. And nowadays, I feel like the mindset is a little bit different, where people can perceive us as either really flighty or super ambitious. And, you know, we want to go from working a job to launching our own brands. I mean, every 5 seconds there's a Diddy quote about don't build someone else's dream, build your own, and all that vibe. And so I wanted to just kind of hop in and get you guys to give us the real when it comes to entrepreneurship. So I'll start with you, Preston. You know, can you tell me a little bit about the motivation behind building a brand, the brand Sherman Preston? I mean, Were you guys kind of running to something like this is something that you knew that you wanted to do? Or were you running from something like, hey, corporate ain't it, corporate ain't the vibe, like I'm out of here. So tell me a little bit about the motivation.
I think it really started with us just trying to do something that was fun. You know, I always love to tell a story of when we started the brand, when we initially had the idea of the brand. Sherman and I went to school in Massachusetts. We went to separate schools, but we went to school in Massachusetts, like 7 minutes away from each other. And I just remember one night I'm in my dorm room, and Sherman called me from his dorm room, and he's like, "Dude, I think we should start a clothing line." And I'm just like, "What? Why would we start a clothing line? Like, we have no experience for that. We're going to college. It's not our majors. We've never had this conversation before, but it just made sense just because of how fashionable our parents were and how much we really enjoyed fashion and creating and presentation, which was at the forefront of it all. And you know, we said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. You know, so I remember like the next month, I just added fashion merchandising to my as my minor in college, and I just said, you know, if we're going to go into this, we're going to go into this full-fledged. And it just started from there. We wanted to have fun but create as well, because we were seeing there weren't enough people that looked like us in the marketplace, and we also weren't seeing things that we really just wanted. So it just made sense for us to just make it on our own and make it ourselves and push from there.
And go ahead, Sherman.
Oh, sorry about that. I would just like to say, you know, I like to look at it as almost like a beautiful storm that just kind of came together. We never set out to get on this journey. However, it seemed like all of the things kind of set in the right place. I went to an entrepreneurship school called Babson College. However, I went there for finance. I had no idea that I wanted to join the entrepreneurial ranks. But as Preston alluded to, you know, just seeing the landscape, seeing that there's not a lot of representation for us, and then also seeing that all of our peers wore the same exact thing over and over and over again. I love to tell a story of going to this party and, you know, spending the whole day of planning out my outfit and knowing that I was going to be the best dressed there, and seeing 3 to 4 people wearing the same exact sweatshirt that I had on that night. And that's when Preston got that call at 3 a.m.
I will never forget that call. What are you talking? What? Start okay. Oh, all right. Let's do it.
Like I guess we're starting a clothing line.
Yeah, it made sense. It made sense because Sherman and I have known each other since I don't even know. We've known each other for a very, very long time. So I trusted his idea. I trusted his what his vision was, and I just added on to it. And a few years later, we really, really launched the brand, and it's been a roller coaster ever since.
And I want to scene set for the folks who are listening, because a lot of times when Black people say that they're launching a clothing line, everybody thinks that it's going to be a line of T-shirts, right, or something that's coming out, or maybe a set of jeans, perhaps, if we're feeling fancy. And so I want you guys to tell me a little bit. And so Sherman, I'll go to you first. If you want to just tell us a little bit about the idea behind the brand, you know, what kind of a clothing line is it? Because I think even starting a brand that's different from everything else in the marketplace, anyone can start a T-shirt line. But when it comes to starting a fashion brand, just tell folks a little bit more about kind of what Sherman Preston kind of offers the marketplace.
Well, I mean, jumping into this arena, it is a huge undertaking. Maybe bigger than we initially thought out that it was going to be. What we set out to do is create a brand that is, you know, for the men, the metropolitan men of in our generation. Also creating a brand that speaks a lot about the fit, about the feel, and also putting presentation at the forefront. So that comes across the board with the pieces that we offer. So not starting out with T-shirts, but we knew that for us to be respected, we would have to, you know, put our best foot forward. And a lot of that came with the tailoring, and that came with the jackets, the overcoats, the suiting. All of those items that we saw from our parents and our grandfathers and our family who really always told us that, you want people to take you seriously, you take yourself seriously first. And those are the pieces that we wanted to create and bring to the marketplace. And also give a new flavor and a new feel for what we were bringing as well.
That's awesome, and I want to kind of build on that with you, Preston. Thinking about what you guys wanted to bring to the marketplace and kind of connecting, kind of what our fathers or what our grandfathers wore, and kind of setting yourself apart. How is it that you kind of intentionally crafted that brand and getting your message out to the market? Because fashion is a huge space that, as Sherman just mentioned, and there's so many brands. Again, everybody's got a clothing line. Every celebrity, as soon as they get one good album, they've got an alcohol line, and then they've got a clothing line. I mean, so how is it that you guys have been able to kind of intentionally craft your brand and get your message out to the marketplace?
We put in the work. We're talking man hours at Mood Fabric Store in New York City. We're talking about doing apprenticeships, learning tailoring from people like Leroy Gould, who's one of the best tailors in New York City. We're talking about really building relationships with New York City factories, learning what the business entailed, learning really from the ground up, failing multiple times, but not allowing it to discourage us. And knowing that we wanted to do something that was sustainable. We wanted to do something that just felt right as well. We stayed on track for a very long time, and it wasn't all peachy. It wasn't all roses, and we didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, you know what? We've got it figured out. No, we're still figuring it out. There is no right or wrong answer, and understanding that from a very, very early age is what really helped us get to the point that we are in now. But yeah, just putting in the work. You have to put in the work and understand it's not going to be easy, because we do have situations where we introduce ourselves and say, hey, you know what? We are two young men and we have a clothing line. And the first thing that people do say is, oh, what kind of t-shirts do you make? Or, oh, what kind of graphics do you make? And it's like, no, we're really learning tailoring. We're really learning the differences between stitches. And, we're really, trying to, curate a brand that represents where we're from and has a simple ideology of presentation, understanding what it looks like when you walk outside your home and you have to introduce yourself, of individuality, of being just a little bit different from what you see everyone doing, and not focusing on trends, but more so focusing on ideologies. So.
And I think that you said something so important in that, because when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think that there's just this sexy kind of aura around it, because again, you see it on Instagram where it's like, I'm on a yacht because I'm an entrepreneur. I quit my job that was paying me $30,000. Now I'm making $3 million a month and I'm sitting on a yacht. And it's like, well, how did we get from the $30,000 a year salary to the $3 million a month on the yacht? I feel like there's a piece of this that's missing in the middle that no one ever talks about. And so I love the fact that you said you've got to put in the work. You've got to study your craft. You've got to, be willing to roll up your sleeves and learn how to be a business owner and learn kind of how to sell your product, how to market your product, and, know the ins and outs of your product. And so I love that idea, because I think we romanticize entrepreneurship and also talking about failing. And I think that's the next question I have for you, Sherman, is there a failure that you can think back to when it comes to the brand that you may be willing to share with those who are listening? Because again, we've got college students, we've got early career professionals who may be sitting there like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but what if I fail? Like, what if it doesn't work? Am I now a failure? Do you want to share a little bit about a failure you may have had and how you guys were able to bounce back and create such an amazing brand?
Absolutely. I mean, entrepreneurship is a journey of failure. It's something that you need to go into knowing that it will happen, and you need to embrace those moments. In order to do well, I think it's really about endurance and being able to not only fail, but learn from those failures and then, try to take those lessons and make yourself better as a brand, as a company, and as a team in that partnership. I always say that I'm lucky to be able to, embark on this journey with a great partner and with a great team that's around us. As far as memorable failures, there's a ton of them. I mean, all of the last ones are the biggest failures and the biggest lessons to learn from. But one in particular that always resonates is a meeting with Saks Fifth Avenue. Being able to work ourselves up to that point. Ooh. I mean, that took years upon years upon years of work. And at the moment, our goal was to, get this brand into a huge retailer. And we got there. We got that moment. We have all of our garment bags. Our pieces are ready. We made sure everything was prepped and to the T's. I mean, just amazing presentation, perfect. And in that meeting, everything that we thought was most important, we realized they didn't care about. So the tailoring, those man hours, the times that we spent to make sure that our sizing was perfect, no matter what range it got to, they weren't really concerned with that. Yeah, these pieces
producing in New York,
absolutely made in New York. The fabrications that we were using, the fit, the feel. What was important to them at that meeting was, wow, these pieces are amazing, but there are a bunch of brands with amazing pieces. What does your following look like? How can you drive people into our stores to buy your product? And while we knew that was important as two business-minded folks, we didn't think it would be one of those deterring factors to why we weren't going to be accepted into this realm that took us so long to get to. So that was definitely one of those moments that we had to, take a step back, really reevaluate. I'll tell you, it felt like being hit by a bus. I mean, it was a huge gut punch, but with that, we had to really reevaluate ourselves, reevaluate where we are as a brand and how we were going to attack differently. That's the most important part.
If you don't mind, Sherman, let me I just want to touch on that meeting really quickly. I'm talking about, this was the pinnacle of where you want to be. The ability to even get into the room to have the conversation was success in itself. The man hours, relationships, attention to detail that we really put in to get to that point was how we even did it. I don't even know to this day. We were ready. We were prepared. We were excited. We just knew we got this in the bag.
Yeah.
And the conversations that were had in that room should deter anyone.
Absolutely.
It should literally break you down and just say, you know what, maybe this is not for me. And I remember us leaving that. I'm talking about, we carried all of our garment bags ourselves. There was no assistant. There was no intern. There was no PR. It was just Sherman and myself walking into that room with our presentation in hand and having that conversation. And when we left, Sherman says it was like, being hit with a ton of bricks. It was worse than that. It was worse than that. And in that moment, if we weren't built differently mentally and being prepared already for this could go either way, we would have ended the brand right then and there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that again with the nuggets here, a lot of times people think that entrepreneurship is this smooth road. Again, you're going from $30,000 a year salary to $3 million a month on a yacht, and missing the piece in the middle, and the fact that you will fall down, you will stumble. And that's why, when it comes to career coaching, I tell people, like, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. You have to be built differently kind of mentally, because you will get those gut punches where you're sitting there like, man, this is not happening. This is not happening. This is not going well.
And really quickly, those gut punches don't always come from external forces. Oh, yeah. They come from yourself as well. Yeah. Those gut punches are just, am I good enough to do this? Can I make it? Am I doing this right? Is this going right? Is this going right? The amount of bricks that we just put on ourselves at times is worse than the ones that people give us. You know, and that's a really, really big thing. If you aren't confident, secure in taking those punches and keep going, I always say don't do it. Because you're going to question it. In that meeting with Saks Fifth Avenue, and I will always remember this, they literally said, yo, it's great that you guys are doing this. You have a silk shirt, so does Gucci. You have some amazing, pants, so does this brand. You have this, so does this brand. Why would they want you? And in that moment, I think Sherman and I both realize it's not about who has the best product, but it's about who can sell it the best.
Yep.
It's not about who designs the best. It's more so about who can gather enough attention towards what you're putting out there. Right. It's not a knack on you. It's more so about the industry and what's going on. So you need to just have these things in mind when you are going into entrepreneurship. And this is not just in clothing line or starting a clothing line, but in every entrepreneurial endeavor.
Absolutely. And I think you made a really good point there, because think about Apple, right? We know that Apple does not have the best phones. I mean, Samsung is like light years ahead of where Apple is, but somehow every year Apple releases a phone, we all go out and buy it. And it's because they know how to sell their product. And not that Samsung is poor by any means, you know, clearly they're making money. But when we think about smartphones, the first thing that comes to mind is an iPhone. And Apple has been able to ingrain that brand in our heads, because like you said, it's about who can sell it the best. And one of the things that I've learned in entrepreneurship is you have to identify, well, what problem are you trying to solve, or what are you trying to revolutionize? Because that's how you're going to connect with your audience. So going back to your example as to, you know, why should people buy your pants, or why should people buy your shirts? If at that time you guys had a different answer as to this is how this is better for this consumer, that might have been a different conversation with the folks at Saks. Yeah. And so for those who are listening, as you're thinking about building a brand, it's not just about, I want to launch a clothing line. It's what's your why? How are you going to position it? Why is your clothing brand? Why is your product? Why is your service different from anything else out there? Why should people come to you? What problem do you solve for them? Or how do you make their lives better? So if you think about fashion, it may not be that, hey, I've got a problem, but how do you make someone feel better about themselves? Do they improve their self-esteem? Like you said, when they leave the house, they have a different swagger to them. But it's about that, being able to position that.
Of course.
And so I really like the conversation about, like I said, you know, having that mindset. And I guess that's a follow up. I mean, I've got questions I'm supposed to be asking y'all. We're just going off script. You know, sorry, Justin, we're going off script.
Hey, let's do it.
But the, you know, a question that I would have is, so what is it that helps you to bounce back? Because we think about, you know, like you said, Preston, that, you know, if you have to be built differently in order to bounce back. But you know, what is it that you think that people have to have within them, or how is it that you've gone through the process of taking those gut punches when you've made a mistake in business, or something has failed, or things are not going well? What is that work like to bounce back from that kind of failure?
I say,
go ahead, Sherman.
Yeah, I say entrepreneurship is a lot like a life simulation. You know, I love entrepreneurship and business the same way I love sports. It's always about the comeback story. It's about being able to deal with adversity and pivot and be agile. That's something that I always commend about Preston and I. We can always, you know, feel some adversity, feel a setback or obstacle, and be able to make a point decision on and be able to keep going, keep pushing forward. I think to answer your question, I think strategy is extremely, extremely important, especially when you talk about how you're going to enter a business, what you're going to do to set yourself apart, And something that we don't talk about enough is how do you leave or how do you exit a business? You know, a lot of times we talk about owning a business forever for the rest of our lives, especially in our community. I mean, we have a business and we think about having it forever. You die and you pass that business along to your family. But strategy is a lot like, how do I exit this business? Who do I sell it to? Who do I partner with? And all of those things become extremely, extremely important. So when you talk about strategy, you try to foresee what issues you could have, and think about possible solutions. So there's always different options that you have going forward in order to keep your business going, in order to not be set back at any time.
So Sherman, what you're saying is we shouldn't just be winging it. Then we're just leaping, jumping out the window. We shouldn't just wing it with our businesses.
No, you can't. You can't. Time is too valuable. Life is too valuable. We have to have some type of structure, and of course, things never go as planned. But you always want to make sure that you have a target in mind. And even if you fall short of that target, even if things change, you know how to maneuver based on that.
And you were going to chime in.
I also think it's really about, the people you surround yourself with. I'm really, really lucky to be working with a gentleman that I've known for over 20 years now. That's a privilege that I think that I have. But even outside of us and looking at, our tribe or the people around us, we always try to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals. For example, one of our brothers, he just released his second project this year, Fear of God by Bobby G. People don't look at that as entrepreneurship, but that's really big entrepreneurship right there. And he put his art into the world, and he's out there on his own. People like D Young that started Select by D this year. That's a really cool, a really close friend of ours, a really close individual of ours that went out there and started her own business as well and is thriving in there. People like Letitia Williams, who started Teach Designs. These are people that we've literally surrounded ourselves with. So when we're having those conversations, it's not just a thing of us just being on our own island and no one else understands what we're doing, but it's more so a situation of us being able to connect with other people and talk to other people and see exactly what they're doing and see how we can support each other in our respective industries. So surrounding yourself with the right people, whether they're working with you or just be able to have a conversation with you, is extremely, extremely important.
And to piggyback on that, Preston, that's a great point. And why that's so important is collectively within that friend group, we also follow the whales. So we're always looking at those bigger brands and those bigger artists or those bigger retailers that are in the market as well. And what they are great at is they can also give us some indication of where the industry is, how things are going. And then within our group, we discuss how that could work for us. How would we move different, or how would we do it the same, or what would be the next step? And that iron just sharpens iron, and together we grow.
That's so essential. Like you said, iron sharpens iron, and I know that sometimes, especially when you're leaving college and you're shifting into a new space or you're getting into a new job, I don't know if you guys have heard the saying that everybody can't go with you. Right. Yes. And it may just be that the people that you started out with may not be the people that you finish with. They may not be the people who go on this next step of the journey with you. And especially from an entrepreneurship perspective, where you have to be laser focused on, building a strategy, focusing on building a brand and solving the problems or introducing something new in the marketplace. The idea that you don't have people around you that can be sounding boards, give you a different perspective, tell you where you're messing up, whatever it might be. Yeah. You've got to have the right people in your circle to make sure that you're continually pushing forward. So I've got a question for you. So we've also had the camp of people of, quit your job. You shouldn't have to have a job. No 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is for suckers. We have those comments. So I just have a question. So do either of you have a full-time job right now that you're managing while being part of Sherman Preston? And if so, How are you effectively balancing that?
Sherman, you want to go first?
Sure. So this is a very interesting topic for me.
Okay.
I have ran the full gamut of having a full-time job, trying to run this brand, going through all of the headaches that come along with that, to a point where I left a really desirable job where my mother looked at me like I had four heads, and when telling her that I was that I was leaving that job in order to kind of operate the brand in a way that I saw possible. So I understand both aspects of it. While you're working a full-time job, you feel like all of the time and effort that you are putting into what, quote unquote, you say another person's dream. If only you put those same hours into yours, you could, make it big time. And sometimes that's true, and other times it isn't. Like we discussed before, I mean, there's no point in being broke with with this amazing business of yours. So currently, what I've done to circumvent that is try to I created a consultancy that's around strategic planning, business planning, business development. But what was most important about that was being able to do something full time that directly would coincide and help what I do with Sherman Preston. And I think that's a great intermediary and something that I would recommend to a lot of folks who are struggling with the in between. Try to find something try to find a full-time job that would maybe something that they can learn. Maybe it's in sales, and they think that sales would directly help with their business. Find a field where they can learn things that will directly help and impact the business that they're developing and bring them one step closer to that goal while they're able to eat and put food on their table.
Right. You have something to
I mean, someone's got to pay for this shit.
Somebody.
Someone's got to pay for it, for us anyway. Someone has to pay for the patterns. Someone has to pay for the fabrication. Someone has to pay for the PR person. Someone has to pay for the drinks that are at the event where everyone gets a drink for free. Someone has to pay for these things, and it ain't cheap. It's the farthest thing from cheap, especially when you want to do this and at the same time be on the yacht and travel the world like Sherman and I love to do. Someone's got to pay for all of this stuff. What I wanted to do, or what where I found balance, was making sure that I found a career within the industry that I really wanted to be in. Mm-hmm. So we want to launch this brand. We wanted to have stores around the world. We want to do pop-ups. We want to do all of that stuff. There is a sacrifice that needs to be made in there of trying to finding a career where you can make money, but at the same time learn on the go. So I decided to move into the apparel and retail and behind the scenes fashion world and understand how these brands work. So I've worked with everyone from Gucci to Saint Laurent to Zegna and so on and so forth, because I wanted to see how they were doing it and get paid at the same time. So I'm pretty much getting paid to learn the knowledge, and that's what really worked for the brand, because I was able to bring all that information to the brand and just say, hey, you know what? If we want to be at this level and we want to showcase what we're doing at this type of with this type of arc, this is what I need to do in order to bring it back. And it's been the best idea that I've ever had, because one, I love my career. I truly do love what I do. But at the same time, I can bring it back into the real goal of making sure that Sherman Preston, the brand, is one of the best brands that's ever been out there.
Yeah, I would definitely. Oh, sorry, Julia. I would challenge. Go ahead. I would challenge any entrepreneur who is thinking of leaving their job to try that approach that Preston just mentioned. You will go into your day-to-day job with a complete different focus and different intention, because you're not going in anymore to just get a paycheck. you're going in there to get something out of it that's going to help you and your brand, help what you're building directly. So it's a different mission. It becomes where you're working on your brand 24/7. So, whether it be to get connections, whether it be to gain some knowledge. For me, I learned a ton about financing and how to finance the brand. With Preston, he met a stylist and connections to different people that we've ended up bringing into the brand as well. So ultimately, it was about us kind of building our network. And we never discussed this, but we took the same exact approach, and it helped us tremendously.
And I think that you made a really good point of shifting your focus as to why are you going, versus it just being a job that I'm going to every day. It's like, well, what am I going to get out of this? And so, like you said, it's a place for you to learn. I mean, you're getting paid to learn,
Yep.
and depending on where, what kind of a company you're at, they may pay for you to take certain courses. They may pay for you to get experiences. That's all for free. It's not coming out of your pocket, and you're able to get that knowledge, and you're getting getting that knowledge in a larger brand, so you can see some of the challenges that they may face, how they overcome their challenges, the strategies, all of these things while getting paid well and keeping your benefits. Having
Keeping your benefits.
Keep the benefits, dental, medical, life insurance, you're getting all these things from your job while you're getting paid to learn as well and glean all you can that you can then take into the brand that you're building. So I really love the idea that it's like, hey, you don't have to quit your job, tomorrow. Especially if you're gaining the skills that can then really help to catapult your brand forward. Like don't cut it off at the legs too early. You can also use your 9 to 5 to stack, because that's the investment in your brand. Like you said, Preston, someone's got to pay for all this stuff. So if you have money that you can invest early on before you get sales or before you get other investors, that's a way for you to get your brand off the ground when you have enough money coming in. And the last thing I'll say about it is when you're able to keep your job, it allows you to not make decisions just out of desperation. Because if you don't have any revenue coming in, you're liable to make decisions just like, I got to get money in here. I got to do something. And you may take a bad deal. You may take a bad opportunity. All money ain't good money. And so if you are, in need of revenue, you're not going to see that. You're going to listen, I got to do what I got to do, and I'm going to ask questions later. And then you can find yourself putting yourself behind the 8 ball because you had to make that desperation decision. So for anyone listening, you don't have to quit your job tomorrow.
and it's a big thing because, with our brand, with Sherman Preston, the brand, there are no investors. I always like to let people know there is no rich uncle in the background that's helping us to do all of this stuff. No, it really is based off of Sherman and myself and really strategizing, like he was saying, really strategizing and understanding, hey, if we do this or if we pay for this, this is how it's going to help us. If you really want to be independent and learn from the ground, you have to take that approach. From my approach, my personal approach, I want to say I was smart enough to take that approach, but I wasn't. I really learned from people that had done it before. Tom Brown did the same thing with Ralph Lauren. Michael Kors did the same thing. Tommy Hilfiger, to an extent, did the same thing. These are things that you just have to do to learn on the go and figure it out. And we just took 2 different approaches, but we understood, let's focus on this, because if we can learn a little bit from here and then learn a little bit from here, we can bring it together and be a stronger force. So ultimately, it worked out for us.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And so, as we're coming to the end here now, I want to ask kind of, we've talked about a number of different things at this point, whether it's having strategy, not quitting your day job if you don't have to, taking the time to learn, bouncing back from failures. What's that one kind of piece of advice? And I'll start with you, with you, Sherman. What's that one piece of advice for someone who's out there in our audience who's listened to this whole conversation and they've been kind of sitting on this business idea and they're interested in launching their own business? What's that one piece of advice you'd like to share with them tonight?
I would say when embarking on your journey, realize that it's your journey. Don't look outside. Don't look elsewhere. It's easy to look at the success of others and become admire another person's journey. Sometimes you just have to put your head down and focus on the tasks that are in front of you. One of the great things about social media and the worst things about social media is sometimes we only see that end story, the end picture. You don't see all of the amount of man hours and all of the things that go into make a quote unquote overnight success. So when you embark on your own journey, just look at it as your journey and keep it to yourself, keep it focused, and really go forward with that.
How about you, Preston? What's that one piece of advice that you would leave with our listeners if they want to launch their business?
One.
Yes.
Surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with people that motivate and inspire you. For me, one of my biggest inspirations is a gentleman that doesn't even know he inspires me. A really close friend to me in Sherman by the name of James. James started with one store. Shout out to Gangster Vegan out in the DMV area. James started and he opened up one store and opened up another, and now he has Raw-ish in the DC area. That's inspiring. Mm-hmm. Sherman inspires me all the time. He probably doesn't even know, but he inspires me. Surround yourself with people that truly, truly do inspire you, that truly love you, that truly motivate you, and are going to help you get to the next step. You can never do it on your own. No matter what anyone says, you can't do it on your own, but the least you can do is surround yourself with people that really can motivate you and help you take it to the next level.
And I'll wrap up. I mean, no one asked me, but I'm going to give my one piece of advice. But, the one thing I would say is give yourself grace. Give yourself the space that you're not going to get it right away. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall down and scrape your knee. You're going to make mistakes. Things are not going to go how you plan, but that doesn't mean that you're a failure. That doesn't mean that your business idea is not going to get off the ground. And sometimes the reason why this idea is failing is because it's not the right one, and you may have to pivot to something else that may be better for you and better in the long run. So give yourself the space and the grace to make mistakes until you find your groove in whatever opportunity is right for you. And so with that, I want to say thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. I think this conversation is probably one of the best ones we have had. I'm so excited to have fellow New Yorkers on the show with us today. We're not going to talk about sports. We're going to keep skipping that. We just go ahead.
Tamed. I promised you guys I was going to keep it tamed.
And you did.
See us on the Patreon. We need to get the Patreon.
Well, I was going to ask if you guys want to tell us a little bit about where we can find you guys on social media, or if you have a Patreon, or where can we find you guys on social media?
Patreon isn't up yet, but literally find us at ShermanPreston.com. We are always communicating with everyone via Instagram. So Instagram.com/ShermanPreston, one word. See us on Twitter at ShermanPreston. We in the streets. We outside. So find us at your local fashion event in New York City. Find us in Miami. Find us in LA. Shout out to the big homie Barles. Where else can they find us?
Well, we have to mention November 15th, the rebranding of the Sherman Preston website. So we'll be launching our e-commerce for our fall collection. So that's going to be awesome. We are working night and day on getting it perfect for everyone. And yeah, that's definitely where you find us. We're excited about these new pieces that we're releasing, and we would love your energy and feedback. So yeah, let us know.
Awesome. So you guys who are listening, mark your calendars for November 15th, the launch of their e-commerce, so that you can pick up some of these amazing pieces from their brand. I am one of your hosts. I'm Julia Rock, and you guys can find me on social media at the Julia Rock on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also connect with Living Corporate on all of our social media channels. So on the web at livingcorporate.tv, on Twitter at livingcorporate_prod, LinkedIn at Living Corporate, and Instagram at Living Corporate. And so I want to thank you guys for joining us. Join us again next week. And again, I want to thank our amazing guests for joining us. We really, really appreciate you guys being here. And with that, you guys have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Good night.